Malcolm X's life was cut short when he was gunned down inside the Audubon Ballroom in Washington Heights 56 years ago. Although the civil rights activist is no longer with us, his words are alive and still remain relevant in today's society.
We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Malcolm X would have turned 96 years old today, and we are joined this morning by his daughter, Ilyasah Shabazz, herself, as an activist and the co-chair of the Malcolm X and Dr. Betty Shabazz Center Uptown. What an honor to have you here this morning. Good morning to you, Ilyasah. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I can't believe my father would be 96. He was only in his 20s when the world learned of him, and he was assassinated at 39 years old. And what a short amount of time to have left this really lasting legacy. I'm so grateful to be his daughter.
Yeah, and we're grateful that you are here to talk about this because, you know, I want to get into what is actually playing out more than 50 years later, still discussing the impact that he had on the world. And I want to talk about what we've kind of seen play out over the past year, right? Because your father sacrificed his life to fight for racial equality and social justice, but our society is still facing a lot of those issues. We saw it play out more than ever this past year. But in one of the recent interviews you talked about, you said that perhaps those protests wouldn't be necessary had he still been alive. Can you explain?
Well, you know, listen, my father was unwavering. His love of justice, his dedication to truth as a leader continues to animate our liberation movements and our understanding of humanity worldwide. I think this past summer, you know, we're going through this pandemic. We didn't even know what it was, but we were isolating ourselves at home. I'm also a college professor, mentoring my students, looking in this, you know, monitor, and we were all forced to witness this horrific killing of George Floyd. And you know, the greatest thing is that it showed our compassion. It showed, you know, the humanity in all of us, because in spite of this pandemic, young people actually organized marches, demonstrations, protests across this nation, 50 states, 18 countries abroad. And this is, you know, all due to these young people in social media, rapidly organizing. And, you know, I take my hat off to them.
What would you think that your father would be saying, since, you know, he was really about a multiracial coalition, right? If he was alive and he would have seen who was on the streets marching, what do you think his reaction would have been?
Oh, well, I think he would have. Well, listen, he said at I think I was at the Oxford debate shortly before he was assassinated, that it would be this young generation of people who would recognize that those in power have misused it and that they would demand change and they would be willing to roll up their sleeves to do the necessary work. This past summer, when I finished my latest book, The Awakening of Malcolm X, we discovered that Malcolm X was quoted in social media 53.7 thousand times per hour per day. And I think that this is the clearest indication, right, that young people you know, are turning to Malcolm and these kinds of leaders who spoke truth to power. And we know that, you know, Malcolm spoke truth, and truth is timeless. And so his work and his message continues to echo and animate, you know, to young people in liberation movements all around the world for social justice.
Yeah, I mean, you said at the top of the interview that he was young and people were just getting to know him, and even younger now, leading that charge. And you also spoke about how he was just such a results-oriented person that perhaps he'd been alive, that he would have gotten the results prior to where we are today in society. I want to talk about this Netflix documentary for a second. I watched it. Fascinating, right? Who killed Malcolm X? It's prompted, though, the Manhattan DA to reopen the investigation into your father's assassination, which may be painful for you as his daughter. But where does the investigation stand?
Well, I think it's important to put, you know, Malcolm's life, his reaction to these injustices that had continued for generations, to put them in perspective. And so if we're discovering that the information provided about his assassination was incorrect, then we want the Manhattan District Attorney to open up the case and let's find out who killed my father, why he was killed, and address our history books for future generations so that we don't continue along these lines.
Yeah, and by the way, the history books, your own book, The Awakening of Malcom X, which you just referenced, has so many interesting nuggets that should be in history books, including what was going on in the prison system. But I want to talk about keeping the legacy alive, right? 96 years old it would have been today, by hosting a birthday celebration that everybody can attend for free. We like that, free 99. Tell us what you have lined up for this evening.
Well, let me also just say, I'm just going to back up for a moment. While my father was in the colony prison and was studying the dictionary, he didn't study the dictionary because he couldn't read or write, because his parents ensured that he had a love for reading, compassion, humanity. But he studied the dictionary so that he could be his best, to know the root words, the etymology of words.
And debate.
And he was the star debater, and they debated against Harvard, MIT, and all these other Ivy League universities. Yeah. But tonight, I'm so excited. We have, at the Shabazz Center, we are live streaming on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, a tribute for my father. We have my beautiful sister, Lauryn Hill. Miss Lauryn Hill is performing. Anthony Hamilton, Alice Smith. We have testimonials from Black Men Build, from Nicole Ari Parker and Chorus Bojo. Just so many really wonderful people. And it's produced by Culture House. And so we're just so grateful for, all of these wonderful people in our societies that have made this contribution to ensure that we can pay tribute to my father. Yeah. He was just in his 20s. He was gunned down at 39. And it is just so hard to believe that he was even younger than I am today when he was at the height of his work.
Yeah. Thank you for carrying on the legacy. And by the way, real quick, do people have to register to attend tonight?
Yes, they can. Yes.
Okay.
The link is in the bio.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And we'll have that. We'll have that on our website, pix11.com, as well, so people can attend. Thank you so much. What a pleasure to speak with you. And you and I will talk offline, because I need to learn how to do a gallery wall like you do behind you. That is one heck of a gallery wall.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll talk. Thank you, Ilyasah. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.